Let's get started with today's webinar. I'll give you a quick outline. So we'll start sort of with some introductions. As some of you may know, or probably a lot of you don't know, we sort of have a community library with a ton of Introduction to Python assignments. They were due for a refresh, so that's basically what we're working on right now. But this is also sort of a good starting point for you to customize these assignments and sort of learn more about Python auto-grading. So we'll get into that and sort of how we are auto-grading these Python assignments ourselves. And then we'll briefly talk about a launch date for this content, how to get started with it, and then also a sort of sneak peek about some upcoming features we're launching in the next. If you have any questions at the end, we'll do sort of a Q&A where you can ask anything you'd like. But during the call, feel free to just pop it in chat, and then we'll be able to address that as well. So to quickly introduce myself, my name is Yuri. I am co-founder and CEO at CodeGrade. We also got a lot of other staff from CodeGrade on this call. So we got Lina, our head of partnerships, Evie, our head of growth, Thomas, our CTO, and then some people from our support team as well, and our development team. So if you have very difficult questions, we should have the right people to help you answer these. So let's start with sort of our Introduction to Python content. First launched this a couple of years ago, sort of assignments that follow some kind of sort of generalized syllabus for an Introduction to Python course. The past few months, we've sort of been working on updating this and adding some new content to this course to sort of take advantage of some of the new features in CodeGrade we've released over the past year, and some advances in auto-grading we've also made in the sort of past 12 months. So here, this large table quickly shows you sort of the difference between the two courses. So on the left, the old syllabus. So in the old syllabus, we had 6 different sections, and in the new one, we've sort of split this up more. And we've also changed the structure. So where before, just every section had just a number of assignments that were based on that section, in the new one, we basically have formative assignments that use a quiz. We have projects. And then finally, after section 6 and section 10, we have sort of a larger, we call it a capstone project. So to sort of give you an idea of the syllabus, you can see that here. And the big difference is, of course, that some of these larger sections are now split in 2, so it's easier to sort of pick and choose and put this in the correct part of your course. And then we've also added 2 new sections. So the first one, just section 0, which just has some formative assignments, no coding yet. And then section 8 on sort of error and exception handling with try except, that was sort of in some other sections in the old syllabus, but now we've sort of extracted that into a new section. And then furthermore, we've increased the total number of assignments that this course contains. So the new content will have about 50 assignments split over these formative quizzes, these projects, and then the capstone projects. So let's quickly talk about these assignment types. So we basically will have 3 different types. Again, those formative, we call them knowledge checks that use the CodeGrade quiz. And that's a new feature. If you haven't seen that, it will basically allow you to give sort of smaller questions. And these follow a general format where we'll have a multiple choice question or a select all and apply question that explains a concept to a student, and we'll get to some demos in a second. And then we'll have a coding question that puts that concept to practice. Again, then another MCQ to explain a new concept, coding question to put it to practice. And basically in every section, all these sections are then further sort of have subsections. Every subsection has one of these formative knowledge checks. So here in this first one, we'll see we have a knowledge check on printing, a knowledge check on variables, and then a knowledge check on data types. And then finally, at the end, you will get a sort of mini project. That's a larger assignment that uses sort of the normal CodeGrade tooling. So no coding quizzes there. And these combine all the concepts of a section. And these are much more similar to sort of the current content we have. So we're sort of reusing some of the sort of assignments that we have there. We're condensing down a bit, and then making like a small assignment out of that. And then finally, after section 6, there's sort of a larger project with multiple files where they sort of have to combine all the things from all the previous sections. So if you have sort of a Python course that sort of does all of it up until section 6, you can basically just input that into your course and you have assignments for everything. If you go a bit further into your course, then you can add like recursion, object-oriented programming, external modules and stuff, and then also do the capstone project for section 10. All right, so I think I've talked about it enough, so let's have a look at what this looks like. So let me share my other screen. All right, so you should be able to see that now. So let me start sort of with section 1. Again, there's sort of 3 different knowledge checks in this section and then a mini project. And let me go into the student view. All right, so again, this is sort of the first ever assignment that the student will get after sort of the basics, like what does Python do? And the first thing that is introduced to students here is printing stuff to the screen. So if we get a question like, how can you put stuff on the screen? So maybe we say display, and we can press the run button. And then we get, in this case, not correct. So again, this is a formative assignment, so students get the result immediately. Of course, if you customize these, you can decide not to show the answer directly. But here we see that the answer is not correct. We get a hint, close but not quite. And we get some explanation that display works in Jupyter, for instance, but it's not the standard in Python. So then maybe I say like, okay, it's actually print. So I press run again. And then now we see this, you got it. This is the correct function. So now as a student, I sort of know the concept, so print, and then I go to the next question, and then we get a question to put this into practice. So now we need to write a line of code to print hello world on the screen. So now I can go to print, and then maybe let's do something like this, and let's first make a syntax error. Again, I run this, and I will immediately get feedback. So here you can see we get feedback that this was never closed. So then let's fix this. Again, let's run it. And now, in this case, the next test fails. Again, we get a useful hint here that there's a difference between the expected output and what my code printed. And they say like, check the punctuation and stuff. So in this first assignment, we want to really make sure that students pay attention to the details. So here you can see we're actually expecting it to be like this. So we need to add some more punctuation. And then let's run it again. And now it passes. You can see that, so we're not exactly matching what we're expecting. So we are a little bit lenient here. So like the capitalization doesn't matter. So we're matching case insensitive, just to make sure that students don't get lost in all the little details. So again, let's go to the next question. And now, again, a new concept of the print function is introduced, which is the multiple arguments. And then again, I think this will return an error, so I can press run again. And then I wait, and then we get a message, this is not quite right. It is actually valid, and it won't produce an answer. So maybe I get it right now, press run again, and then hopefully this is correct. And then we get some explanation. Yes, print separates arguments with a space unless specified otherwise. And then again, we go to the next one. And then with this new knowledge, we're going to write 2 print statements. So then, okay, let's do something here. Hello world. And then we also need to, let's wait with that. And then let's have a look. So now the output, we're still missing the 15. So we should print 15. And then let's see if that is correct. Give it a second. And now we are passing all the tests. Also notice that if I were to just print it like this, so I won't actually use this new knowledge of the 2 arguments and I run it, the output will of course be correct. But we've also added a code structure test in here that fails now, and we get the hint that make sure it has 2 arguments separated by comma as required. So then we fix it again. And we go to the next. And then finally, the last concept of the print function is explained, which is the separator. And again, we can do that. And as you will expect, it will give a hint, and then there's another coding question finally using this. And then after this, we can just simply hand it in. In this case, there's an unanswered question, but let's just go for it. And then finally, it will rerun everything once more. And then I should get a grade shortly. So a great question about sort of this other one is like, does it check types? Let's have a look. I'm curious. This one, so let's say if this is correct. So this is still, we're still finalizing the development of this. So if this is correct, then we're still fixing it. It is correct. So we need to fix this still. It's a good point. But we're sort of still going through this. So we can check the type with the structure test. So we just have to add an additional one to that. Let me actually go back. And then finally, you see the rubric. Every question has a separate rubric category, and then you see I have all of them correct, except for question 6, that still needs a revision. And then I get a final grade of 83%, and that's it. So again, let's take a look at another one. So let's go to maybe 2.1, or let's go to the mini project. So for the mini project, you see that as a student, you will get sort of a different UI. All the knowledge checks, they're supposed to be done in CodeGrade. So you'll see that if I go to like 1.2, we use what we call in CodeGrade the simplified submission mode. So the quiz automatically loads up. And if you have this integrated within an LMS, it looks even more seamless. And you see the questions and the coding questions show up here. But the mini projects, which have an example right here, they show up with the normal submission mode. And here, by default, students can either use the built-in editor, like they do in those coding quizzes, or they can just simply upload files. So with the mini projects, it is possible to also work on your own, like VS Code or something like that. And go to the assignment description, and we can view that here. But of course, I can work in CodeGrade from a template, and then I get sort of a template in here. I can open up the assignment description. And here we have to name a file answer.py, and we have to do 2 separate tasks. So first we have to calculate the area of a rectangle and the area of a circle. And then again, if I press run, it will do similar tests, but as this is a project, you will see that there's a sort of, the tests are a bit more expensive. So we have a functionality rubric that checks the syntax and the outputs. We have a code rubric category that actually does like a check on all the variable declarations in this case. And then we also have, we even do like an ungraded code quality check in here as well. So if I were to now go through this assignment, and I have to declare 2 variables, length and width, and 10 to length, 33 to width. So I think, so what was it? So 10. 33, and then again I can run it, and then hopefully I get a bit further. And let's just make flake 8 a little bit mad as well here, and then area length times width, and then print. I can copy paste this. And then this output is now correct. And then, of course, the circle here is not correct yet. This doesn't work yet because I am not done yet. And then you also see that flake 8 is now giving me an error, that missing white space. But again, this is ungraded. And then I can hand this in whenever I want. And then also we get the feedback right here. And again, you see that the rubric here is a bit is like an actual rubric in this case for these mini projects. So again, for every sort of section in this course, we'll have a bunch of these. We've got 1 or 2 or 3 of these mini projects, and then for every subsection, we will have a knowledge check, and then finally at the end, one of those capstone projects that follows a similar format as the mini projects, but then students will have to use multiple files in here and sort of have to do something more difficult and more time-consuming. All right, so let's now get out of the student view and sort of look at what this looks like from behind the scenes. So I'll show it in a second, but basically what you will be able to do is you can just import these. These will be available through the community library in CodeGrade. And so if you create a new assignment, so let me actually go to this one. If you create a new assignment, you will just be able to scroll to the bottom here. There will be community library, and then you can import them once they are available. And once you import them, you get everything that we have here. So let's go to that 1.1 knowledge check. And everything will be preset by default. So I can go into the rubric. I will be able to view my rubric. I will be able to customize the points for each question. And then within the auto test, I will be able to get the full auto test configuration. So if you're looking to sort of customize these questions and sort of make it your own, you sort of have all the opportunity to do that. And this is sort of our auto test v2 UI, where we have the quiz right here. So that quiz block will basically become, in that editor for the student, will become that sort of UI where they can click through the separate questions. And then you can see that within this nested, we have, for instance, a multiple choice question right here that we can see. We can choose if we want to order the answers, and we can also configure the hints. So you can set that, you can change that if you're not happy with one. You can change some of the answers here. And similarly for a coding question, you can see we have a question statement. You put like a file name that the answer will be in, and then this file will automatically be available for your tests, for all the tests nested inside. And then for every test, we do sort of a syntax check, which runs a sort of custom script that provides those errors into the code. And then we only run following tests if the answer is correct. And then for these simple ones, we use just simple IO tests that check the output of the student. But then, of course, in later tests, we also use these things like the code structure test using semgrep, so we're sort of looking for specific patterns. So in this case, if we should also check the other part of this, or I guess that was in question 5.4, that this is an integer, so we should actually add another code structure test here. That will just, so I can just duplicate this. That will look for like grid 15. I think it is right, yeah. And now this will also be checked. So again, if you see things in the auto grading that you don't agree with or you want different, you can just modify these however you'd like. And then that's basically it. Similarly, for one of those mini projects, so let's get an example here. If we go to the auto test, you can see it's very similar. We have functionality rubric, we check for syntax, we do some IO testing. Then in this case, we do some testing with this simple Python test that basically inserts the answer, and then we can make all kinds of assertions on the code. And then also we add in this code quality check. And then, of course, if you want to modify this, so you don't want this to be ungraded, but you actually want this to be graded, you can just go to the rubric here. You can go in here, you can change this to maybe a continuous rubric, and you can give it like 0 to 10 points or something like that, submit that, and now it becomes like a graded rubric category just by submitting this. So it's easy to customize in that sense. Let's also quickly look at sort of a later section. I had another example that I just loaded in here of 6.1. Right, let's also have a look. So this is sort of later on in the course. And again, it follows a similar format, in this case about tuples. So how to create a tuple. And then we get another coding questions, in this case, complete the code. So that's a sort of different type of question that we have. So second element in the list. And we can do something like this. Again, run it anytime we want. And we'll get feedback. And you can see that all of these knowledge checks, they're sort of really focused on the exact concept. So we don't want students to write a lot of code and spend a lot of time on these, but just sort of get familiar with the concept. And then those mini projects are where they have to sort of write more code and spend more time on that. Right, that sort of wraps up the introduction to Python content. I do want to showcase a couple more sort of Python grading features we have. So let me actually go to a different assignment. This one. So again, if we go back to this auto test, here you can see sort of a different kind of assignment. And we saw, if you scroll to the bottom here and you basically look for the yellow blocks, those are sort of all of our Python-focused blocks. First of all, in the setup, you can actually choose to install your version of Python very easily. So you just have an install Python block, and you'll see that it's the same yellow color. And then you just select the one you want. So 3.12 in this case. And then again, input-output tests are really easy to use because you just run some code, you give some input, you expect certain outputs, you can match case insensitively, you can ignore white spaces, all those things. But then also for more advanced tests, we have a very simple to easy to use Python PyTest block. So you can just drag and drop in, let me make it a bit bigger, this PyTest block, and then you can just write or copy paste in files, test functions. And with this, for a more advanced use case, you can also see we have this specialized CG PyTest reporter. So if you press this little eye icon, there's actually a link that will go to the pip package for this, and it will have some documentation about it. And this will basically make it sort of better suited for your educational use, because it basically allows you to sort of set a more friendly name. It allows you to set a description that's actual test. So instead of them seeing, I don't need to do this like this. Instead of having them see this name, they will be able to just see the description and the name, and you can set like a weight, so you can make certain tests way more than others. And then you can just write your sort of assertions in here or anything else you want to do, and it will just work. So that's easy to do. Then finally, as you saw before as well, we have that Flake 8 block. And then we also have this simple Python test block that basically will allow you to insert a file that the student writes. So if you do cg insert.py here, this will basically now automatically insert the student's code into this block, basically, and then I can just do things. So I can do tests like where maybe students have a variable called, let's think like height equals length equals 10, and then width equals 30. And now these variables are available for the student, and maybe now they just have to, in their answer.py, print length times width, and then they don't have to define them themselves, and then you can do your test with that. Or they, in their test, define like a variable yourself, and then here you can assert that sort of equals text. So this is a really nice test if students just have to write like a small snippet of code. In terms of like Python testing, that's sort of all you have to know. Again, you can also use these code structure tests. They're really easy. You just drag and drop them in. Whether you're looking for something in the code or you want something not in the code, we have the positive match and the negative match, and you can use those for that. All right. So let's go back to the slides now. Oh, quick question. Can we pick and choose which parts we want students to see, do, or is it only available as a full course with all the modules? No, so it's exactly how you want. So it's really in terms of like that, if you just import these, so you can just go to the general tab, scroll down, community library, and just select every assignment you want to import. But let me also go back to the slides because I have a slide for this. And I will answer your question there. So first, a quick launch schedule for this new content. So 0 through section 3 will be launched in December, then 4 to 6 in January, and 7 to 10 in March. So it should be available relatively soon. And then finally, how to adopt them. They're all available through that community library. So you can import them assignment by assignment. But additionally, we can also provide you with a Canvas or Brightspace import package, and it will basically load them as like modules within your either Canvas or Brightspace course. And we can also help you with like Blackboard and Moodle if you want. And then our support team can also sort of help you implementing this into your course. So all of these assignments, they're basically available on an assignment level. So if you don't like them, you don't have to use them. So if you just want like some additional assignments on recursion, you just go to the recursion section and you get the formative and the projects from that, or you just get the project. Of course, if you don't do recursion, you just skip that, or if you don't care about error and exception handling in your course, you just skip that. So it's really available to sort of whatever you want to do. If you want to sort of customize them, or have like feedback, like our support team can basically help you implementing this, and it should be pretty straightforward. That's it for sort of the new intro to Python content. Again, in terms of launching it, the first few will be available this month already in a couple of weeks. We're just finalizing those, and then section 4 to 6 will come shortly in January. And then 7 to 10, those are sort of the more difficult sections, the more advanced sections, I should say. They will become later, around March. Then finally, let's also talk a little bit about some upcoming features we're working on. So as you saw in those formative quiz, those knowledge checks, when you press that run button, it runs all the questions. Of course, if you have like 10 or 15 questions, those knowledge checks, that can take a while. So to address that, we basically are launching a feature where you can run single questions in coding quizzes. So there will be a configuration on the quiz itself, and then they will get a button to just run a single question. So we'll also turn that on for these questions, but you can switch that on or off when you import them. We'll also, besides Python, we're working on better Java support. So as you saw the PyTest block, a similar block will come for JUnit 5 in Autotest v2. And sort of if we're looking sort of into next year already, we're also working on that, and we have some very exciting features coming then. As it relates to Python, we'll be launching Jupyter Notebook support in the CodeGrid editor, but that's still a while away. But that will be very exciting, and we'll be able to tell more about that soon. But I just wanted to put that into your brains already, that something like that is coming. I just saw a great question. Is the cost for the Python course the same per student cost as it is for using CodeGrid? So yes, the introduction to all this stuff is available at no extra cost through the community library or through those course content packages. So there's no additional cost for these. Like all of the content in the community library is, if it's globally published, it's free to use for all users. So yes. Then the question, what's the cost per student? So it's a great question. Sort of depends where you are in the world and what kind of license you are on. But if we're looking from a US perspective, the student pricing cost is $35 per student. But our partnerships team is happy to reach out to you because a lot of people are on sort of university-paid licenses as well, and then the costing is all different and more complicated because your university pays for it then. But if we're looking from it for pure student payment perspective, it's $35 per student for the course. And it includes all of CodeGrade's features. And of course, the support and stuff. But I think Lina can talk to you if you are interested in learning more about that.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send you. I'll send you an email, Fred, to quickly talk about that.
All right, so that's sort of all the information I had. So the Jupyter support is something very excited we're working on, and we'll definitely have a webinar about that sometime in the future as well. And of course, when the whole course is finished, we'll do sort of an update on this. So somewhere in March, we'll do a final update where we sort of show you how to import this as well. But if you already want to get started with this for your January courses, that's of course already possible because most of the content will be available then, especially sort of the earlier stuff. And we hope that this is a big improvement compared to what we currently have in terms of the Python content, especially those formative knowledge checks, I think are very easy to add to your course if you just want to give students a little bit of extra practice. We'll have some more time for like Q&A and questions and stuff, so we'll hang around for a little bit. But if you need to go, feel free to leave now. I want to thank everyone for joining today. And if you have any other questions, you can, of course, always reach out to support@codegrade.com as well, and they're happy to help you.